Okay, buckle up, listeners, because things are getting interesting up north. We're talking about Canada.
Spicy, you might say.
Yes, spicy is a good word for it. We're diving into some potential political drama that could really shake things up in Canada.
Yeah, it's a pretty big deal.
So we're talking about Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and his Liberal Party. They're facing some pretty serious pressure right now. Could even mean the end of his time as Prime Minister.
It's possible, yeah. A lot of factors at play here.
Exactly. And to really understand what's going on, we're going to take a deep dive into a recent article from Reuters.
Great article. Really lays out the situation well.
It does. And, a lot of people might think, oh, Canadian politics, why should I care?
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. But trust me on this. This goes way beyond just our neighbors to the north. We're talking about potential implications for trade, for global alliances.
Even the upcoming U.S. election, there are a lot of connections here.
There are. So it's important to understand what's going on. So let's
Right.
start with the basics. What's putting Trudeau in such a tough spot right now? What's causing all this pressure?
Well, you have to remember, he's been in power for 9 years.
That's a long time.
It is, it is. And voter fatigue is a real thing.
People want change.
Exactly. And especially when you combine that with the rising cost of living, the housing crisis.
The worst directly.
Canadians are feeling the pinch, absolutely. And they're looking for solutions, and they're not sure if Trudeau's the one to provide them anymore.
And what's interesting is that it doesn't sound like those solutions are coming from within his own party. This is wild. Over 50 Liberal MPs from Ontario are actually calling for him to step down.
That's a huge number.
That's a significant chunk of his own base turning against him. So what's driving that discontent? What are they unhappy about?
It's a mix of things, really. Some MPs disagree with some of his policies. Others are saying that he's just lost touch with the everyday concerns of Canadians. They don't feel like he's representing them anymore. And even some longtime, really strong Trudeau loyalists.
People who have been with him from the beginning.
Yeah, people who've always supported him, people like Chandra Arya, are now starting to speak out, and they're demanding change. And that's really telling.
It's a big deal when someone like that comes out and says that publicly. And then on top of all of this, you've got the recent resignation of Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland.
Big loss for Trudeau.
Huge loss.
She was a major player in his cabinet. A lot of people saw her as a potential successor.
Really?
Yeah. So this resignation really signals that there are some serious problems, some fractures, even within Trudeau's inner circle. It's not just like a minor disagreement on policy. This is deeper than that.
Yeah, sounds like it. And then you combine that with the fact that all the opposition parties are now united against Trudeau's minority government. It feels like the situation is really closing in on him. So what are his options at this point? Is there any way that he can get out of this? Can he salvage this situation?
I mean, there are a few paths he could take, but they all come with their own risks. One option is he could just try to hold on, just tough it out, wait for the potential no confidence vote and see what happens.
Just gamble on it.
Basically. But that's a really risky strategy.
It is.
Especially when you consider that right now the polls are actually favoring the Conservatives. They're the main opposition party.
So it's not looking great for him in an election.
Not at the moment, no. Another option is he could resign, step down gracefully next month, allow for an interim leader to take over, maybe buy the Liberal Party some time to regroup and figure out their next move.
That almost seems like admitting defeat, though.
It does, right. It kind of suggests that he doesn't believe he can turn things around himself.
Yeah.
So there's that. And then there's a third option, which is he could prorogue Parliament.
Prorogue Parliament. Okay, for those of us who aren't following Canadian politics super closely, what does that even mean?
Okay, so basically proroguing Parliament is a way for the Prime Minister to temporarily suspend Parliament. It's a pretty controversial move.
Why is it controversial?
Well, it's seen as a way to avoid scrutiny, dodging those tough questions from the opposition. And it doesn't actually solve any of the underlying problems. It just kind of kicks the can down the road a little bit.
Just delays the inevitable.
Exactly.
So let's say, hypothetically, Trudeau does step down.
Mm-hmm.
Who are some of the people who could potentially replace him? We mentioned a few names earlier.
Yeah.
Who are the front runners and what are their strengths and weaknesses?
Okay, so obviously Chrystia Freeland, even though she resigned, she's still a strong contender. She's got a lot of experience. She's well respected. She's definitely someone to watch.
Right.
Then you've got Melanie Joly, the foreign minister. She's known for her diplomatic skills.
That's important on the world stage.
Very important.
Yeah.
And then there's Francois-Philippe Champagne, the innovation minister. He's really been focusing on economic growth and trying to attract investment into Canada.
Okay.
And then we can't forget about Mark Carney. He's the former central bank governor. He's got a really strong economic background, a lot of international experience.
He was actually the governor of the Bank of England at one point, wasn't he?
He was, yeah. So he's definitely a big name.
So they all bring something different to the table.
Exactly. And their leadership styles could have a big impact on what direction Canada takes.
Of course, all of this is happening with the U.S. election just around the corner. How does that factor into all of this?
Oh, it has a whole other level of complexity. Because a new administration in the U.S. could mean some big changes to trade agreements.
We're talking about that potential 25% tariff on Canadian imports that we've been hearing about.
Exactly. And that would have a massive impact on Canada's economy. So whoever takes over from Trudeau is going to have to navigate some really challenging international waters. And it's not just about the economy. The outcome of the U.S. election could really shift the entire political landscape in North America.
Yeah, it's all connected. It's really interesting, the Liberal Party is running these ads right now, and they're really focusing on the potential for conservative spending cuts.
That's their main attack.
But the weird thing is they don't even mention Trudeau in these ads. It almost feels like they're trying to distance themselves from him, like they're trying to create some separation there.
Yeah, it's a really strategic move. And it shows that they're aware of the fact that Trudeau's popularity is declining. They're basically acknowledging that the public is concerned about the economy, and they're trying to shift the focus away from Trudeau's leadership. They're trying to say, hey, look over here. This is what you should be worried about. It really suggests that behind the scenes, they're already thinking about a future without Trudeau at the helm.
Yeah, it's pretty fascinating. So to kind of sum up everything we've been talking about, Justin Trudeau's political future is very much up in the air right now. There's a lot at stake for Canada.
Huge implications.
And the decisions that are made in the next few months, they're not just going to affect Canada. They're going to have ripple effects that go way beyond their borders. They're going to impact all of us in some way.
Yeah, and it really makes you think, if Trudeau does step down, what qualities should Canadians be looking for in their next leader?
Yeah.
How should they approach these global challenges that we're facing? These are big questions. And how might those decisions, how might Canada's choices impact your life? These are things worth thinking about. Keep these questions in mind as we continue to follow this story and see how it unfolds.
We will, and we'll keep you updated right here on The Deep Dive.
Absolutely.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
Thanks.